Okay, so the question is, how can we analyze and present these data in ways that are parsimonious and meaningful? So let's say I wanted to show the reader how my scores ranged on this setting direction scale. So if we sort of take this to the drawing board, I thought about, well, what if I had some kind of graphic that was sort of like this. Oops. And for each, so there's 8 items on this setting direction scale. So if I make a row for each item, so I'll need 8 rows here. There's 5, 6, 7, 8. So each row is one of the items, and then for each of the items I wanted to know across all of my respondents, what percentage rated me as ineffective. And so maybe on item 1 it's that percent, for item 2 it's that percent, for item 3 it's there, item 4, and so on. And so all of these become, so this is the percent that rated me ineffective. Right, all of these are ineffective, and so on. And so for each of the items, I could see what percent rated me in each of the possible categories. Right. So item 1 might look like that, and item 2 might look like, something like that. Where at the high end, it's, this is the percentage of my respondents who said I'm outstandingly effective, and here it's the percentage that said I'm outstandingly effective. And so if we did that for all 8 of the items, we start to have kind of a visualization that says, overall, if you kind of step back from 30,000 feet, how did I do on this setting direction scale? But it also allows me to kind of zoom in and see, okay, well, this first question on the assessment, which, if you go back to the assessment, is a question about how you articulate a vision related to your professional field. And the second question under setting direction is how you articulate high performance expectations for yourself, and that's this row here. So you can see, how I scored on that across my respondents, but again, I can also see overall in this whole scale of setting direction, how did my respondents judge me? Well, turns out that is a chart that's doable right in Excel. It's actually called a 100% stacked bar chart. And so the question is, well, how do you go about creating one of these 100% stacked bar charts? And there are some steps to get there, but it's quite simple to do. And if you look at this this graph, basically what it is sort of it's essentially a table, right? And so here's question 1. Here's the cell that's the number of people who rated me as 0, and here's the second cell is the number of people that rated me as 1, and so on. But it's not just the number; it's the percent. So across this question 1, what percent gave me a 0? What percent gave me a 1? And so on. So in order to create this kind of this 100% stacked bar chart in Excel, we have to actually create a couple of tables just like this. So I'm going to go back to the Excel file, and you can actually create these tables anywhere in the worksheet itself, or create a new worksheet to do it. But you'll see if you scroll down, I started to make this table, and here it is. Alright, so here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the range of responses on the effectiveness scale that were offered to your respondents. And here's question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8 questions, 5 possible responses across the 8 questions. And in order to get to where we want to go with this 100% stacked bar chart, first you have to create a table that's literally a count of the number of responses in each cell. So I want to know in this first cell, for question 1, how many of my respondents rated me a 0. In this cell down here is for question 2, how many respondents rated me a 0. For question 3, and so on. This cell over here is for question 1, how many respondents rated me a 1, and so on. So you can do the counting by yourself, and that would work if you have small data set, but here I'm working from a large data set, and so there's some functions that you can work with in Excel. And what I said before was this is literally a count of responses in a certain range. And so if you look, what I did in order to create this table is I used up here in the function area the COUNTIF function. And in order to use the COUNTIF function, you put it in there as equals COUNTIF, and you give it the range. So I said D2 to D172. So that's this whole column essentially, which is item 1 on the survey. It's the item about articulating a vision related to your professional field. So I said if in that range from D2, from cell D2 all the way down to D172, count it if, and then comma, and what value are you looking for? I'm looking for 0. So what it's going to do is, using that function in this cell, it's going to give me the count of zeros, of the occurrence of zeros in that range of cells. Similarly, down here, if you look in the function box for that particular cell, now it's the count if column E from cell 2 to 172 is 0. Because column E is question 2, and that's what this whole row in this table is representing, is question 2. How did my respondents answer? How did they judge me? So you have to go through, and for all 40 of these cells basically, you have to put in the proper COUNTIF function. So just taking a look at a random cell here, this is for question 4, how many of my respondents picked choice 2, which is satisfactory. If 0 is ineffective and 4 is outstandingly effective, how many picked effective, which is choice 2? So in this cell, if you look at the formula up here, it says count if column G, which is question 4, from row 2 to row 172, in that range, count it if there's a 2 in the cell. And it turns out, if you look at down here, it tells me that there are 19 instances down here. There are 19 instances where on question 4, my respondents rated me a 2, which is satisfactory. Okay? So you have to go ahead and create this whole table to start. That's going to produce the count, but this is a 100% stacked bar chart, and it's about percentages. And if you go back actually to my original drawing, so the idea was I want to know what percentage of my respondents rated me ineffective as opposed to outstandingly effective. Okay, so we have to now convert this chart, which is just counts, to a percentages chart. So I'm going to essentially create the same chart. Okay, and I'll actually, let me just delete this for a second because you'll see what it looks like in a bit. But I now want to put percentages into these cells in this table. So I've just renamed it Q1 through Q8, and I've put in the actual language of the response set. And in this first cell, what this is the percentage of all the responses on that are a 0 in question 1. And so what it is basically it's telling me it's this cell here, how many times my respondents rated me a 0 on question 1, divided by the total number of responses for that question, which is here. So it's this cell divided by this cell. Okay, so I literally just put in the function of cell D181, which is right here, divided by cell J181, which is right here. So one time out of the 147 responses on question 1, one time did I get a score of 0. So 1 divided by 147 is 0.0068, etc. Alright, and so now I want for each of these cells, I'm going to do the same thing and compute the percentage of the row that it is. Okay, so now I've got, for every question, I can tell what percentage rated me ineffective versus outstandingly ineffective. Alright, now this is the step that I need to get to. Now I want to create this chart that I talked about, this 100% stacked bar chart. I'm literally just going to highlight all of these data, and I'm going to go to my Insert tab up here and say Insert Bar Chart, and you'll notice I can do two-dimensional, three-dimensional, but I'm going to do, if I do two-dimensional, this one is called, it would work, this one, sorry, my computer's a little slow here. I'm going to pick this one is just a stacked bar, which is the count. This one here is called the 100% stacked bar, and I'm going to do three-dimensional. So I'm going to pick the 100% stacked bar in 3D, and bingo, it automatically produced it from my highlighted area. Right, so there is the text, there's the chart, the 100% stacked bar chart, and I can do anything I want with this chart. I can copy it, I can paste it anywhere I want. I'm going to actually copy it and move it into its own cell here, into its own sheet. I'm going to do that here, and there it is. Okay, there it is, much bigger. You can see I've now got a pretty good visualization of the responses for the whole cohort on this setting direction scale. And I see that, you know, for the most part, we're in the highly effective and outstandingly effective. You know, there's a lot of purple and blue here, very little green. So I know that this cohort, across this cohort, we have some folks that are rated either highly or outstandingly effective on setting direction. And so that's the kind of 30,000 feet view of how you all did on this particular scale according to your respondents. But we could also zoom in and see, you know, there's question 6 has the highest percent that's only satisfactory, and so we might go in and check, you know, what is question 6 on the survey and see what that is. So again, it allows us to see the big picture while also kind of seeing some of the nuance within the scale itself. So again, this is just one possible way to visualize the data, and you might now go and produce 10 of these, one for each of the scales, and make those kind of the basis of your report. But again, this is just for the cohort. Now you have your own data. These are just the baseline data. You have also the post data. So you have to make some decisions about, you know, how you want to go about visualizing this and reporting it. Maybe you only want to produce some of these where there's some interesting results. It's entirely up to you. Maybe you don't want to use a 100% stacked bar chart. Maybe you can think of a better way to visually represent how you scored, and or how you scored relative to your cohorts, how you scored, how your scores changed over time. Again, this is just one example of one possibility of how to kind of represent these data and visualize it. It's you know, the limits really here are your skills and your creativity. So I encourage you to sort of go from here and think about how you want to analyze and visualize these data.